Bay State Health, providing the care you and your family need when you need it, close to home. Visit them online at baystatehealth.org. Greenfield Savings Bank. Visit them at 400 Main Street in Greenfield. Call them at 774-3191 or go online to greenfieldsavings.com. Greenfield Community College, providing access and excellence in higher education in the Pioneer Valley. Visit them at gcc.mass.edu. The Hammond Family. The Hammond family are longtime supporters of Greenfield Community Television. New Fortune Chinese Restaurant on the Mohawk Trail in Greenfield. Visit them online at newfortunema.com. Call them at 772-0838 and check them out on Facebook. Real Cleaning Services, cleaning Hampshire and Franklin County since 1972. We don't cut corners, we clean them. Check them out online at realclean.com. Call them at 413-422-1143. People's United Bank, located at 45 Federal Street in Greenfield. You can call them at 774-3713 or visit them online at peoples.com. The Solar Store of Greenfield, replacing fossil fuels and nuclear power one home at a time. Visit them at 23 Fisk Ave. Call them at 413-772-3122 or visit them online at solarstoreofgreenfield.com. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting all of GCTV's productions.
Welcome. This is the meeting of the Greenfield Public Schools Committee. We are at the GCTV studios at 393 Main Street in Greenfield. Today is Wednesday, July 11th, 2018, and it is 6:33 p.m. Can we have a roll call, please?
Committee Member Ekstrom.
Here.
Committee Member Hollins.
Here.
Committee Member Karen.
Here.
Committee Member Ward is absent. Mayor Martin.
Here.
Committee Member Nunez.
Here.
And myself and the superintendent. Chairperson Nunez, we have quorum.
Thank you. Has everyone had a chance to review draft minutes from 6:13 and 6:28? Is there a motion to approve draft minutes from 6/13/2018?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Member Alexander. Any deliberation, any comments on this? Okay. All those in favor of approving the June 13th, 2018 minutes?
Aye.
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 All right, that is unanimous. Thank you. And the June 28th, 2018 minutes, is there a motion to approve the minutes for June 2018, or June 28th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mayor Martin, thank you. I do have one point to bring up with this. On number 3 in the agenda items, it's not stated who moved and seconded the adjournment. It's a minor detail, but yes.
Chair, just to let you know that the correction for item 3 has been amended and it was submitted back to the district office for permanent record.
Okay, do you recall?
Committee Member Ekstrom moved and it was seconded by yourself.
Okay. Okay, so with the correction of Member Ekstrom moving adjournment and myself seconding, and a unanimous vote to adjourn, all those, any other comments on these minutes? Okay. All those in favor of approving June 28th, 2018 minutes?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous, thank you. So we'll start with public comment. Public comment is 3 minutes long. I think that we do have a couple people from the audience here for public comment. I'm seeing 2 people so far. So, Amy, are you first? Okay, come on up. There is a sign-up sheet. If you wouldn't mind today signing up, we don't always do that, but our secretary is not here, and it will be helpful to her to have your name and address, please. Can you time it? Great. Member Alexander will time 3 minutes.
I'll be well under, I promise. I'm Amy Prietti. I live at 121 Riddell Street here in Greenfield. I want to first thank each of the school committee members for their service in what is too often a thankless job. I appreciate your effort and dedication to educating the children in our community. I want to follow that with additional thanks to every friend and neighbor here who values quality schools and how they enhance our citizenry. My true purpose for speaking tonight is to publicly support Superintendent Jordana Harper. Frankly, I'm embarrassed that our elected school committee officials have yet to renew her contract. I remember meeting Jordana for the first time at a listening tour event at Discovery School at Four Corners. It was the summer before my daughter Marina entered the 3rd grade, and what was on my mind at that time was returning 4th graders to the elementary schools. I think she'd been on the job about 3 weeks, and when presented with this request, she was honest, realistic, and very candid. She cited research about where 4th graders are at developmentally. She empathized with our concerns as parents, and she clearly agreed, but she didn't promise a change. Yet, yes, less than a year later, a plan was executed. And from that point forward, I've seen Jordana approach every task in the same way, drawing on research and experience, communicating with stakeholders at each step in a process, and employing an approach that's both realistic and effective. I now have 2 children in the Greenfield Public Schools. My daughter is a rising 7th grader, and so self-aware, responsible, and academically driven, my wife and I joke that she's actually the parent now. My son is on the other end of the spectrum, 6.5 years old, repeating kindergarten next year, and with significant developmental deficiencies. Jordana knows my kids by name, and she genuinely values Marina and Joe and every Greenfield student for how their uniqueness diversifies and enriches our community. My gratitude for the skills, authenticity, and approachability Jordana brings to the superintendent role is endless. As I see the rifts in the leadership of school districts in our region, I'm even more grateful for the steady, approachable, and knowledgeable leadership we have from Jordana Harper. Please renew her contract on terms that recognize her for the asset she is to our team. Our schools are already starved for adequate resources. Let's protect this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Hi, I'm Paul Jablon. I live at 73A Fairview Street in Greenfield. I actually want to speak to a similar issue, which is simply that the superintendent's contract has not yet been fully negotiated and signed. As many of you know, I've spent multiple decades working with school districts across the country. And a sign of a really effective, positive, working school district is our superintendents that are not only doing an effective job, but when they are doing an effective job like Jordana is, that their contracts are negotiated and signed usually by April or May, long before their contract runs out. And so there's nothing we can do now except get her a good long contract. But in a few years, another contract is going to come up. And I would like the school committee to really begin not nitpicking pieces of contracts, but putting full contracts out there that are well thought out by looking at contracts from other school districts that are really good contracts, and then putting the best together, and then offering that as a contract with some little negotiation back and forth so that we can have a superintendent who can go into the summer, who can go into new administration, who can go into new programs with full knowledge that those things can come to fruition, because indeed they have a contract and are part of the whole school system. So, one, I certainly would like to see her contract renewed at length, but secondly, that this process happen in a very different way next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment today? Bob, did you have your hand up earlier?
Oh, I was just supporting.
Oh, okay. Okay. Seeing no other public comment, okay, we will move on with our reports. Thanks to everyone who came out. Gosh, it's so unusual not to have our student representatives here. Already missed them. I just have a couple of quick things to check in about. As you can see, our agenda is pretty light today. For July, we've been meeting quite a bit, mainly because of negotiations for the superintendent contract and other contracts. And this evening, we do have executive session scheduled to discuss the superintendent contract as well as cafeteria workers union contract. So with all that in mind, I'll just quickly move through. I wanted to check in with the group about minutes. It seems that it's been a little bit difficult for us to kind of keep up with minutes and get them into our secretary in a timely fashion. This is not a new struggle with the different configurations that or the different teams of school committees that I've been on. We've always had our kind of ups and downs with getting that done. I am curious. I'm bringing this up because it's a little bit of a problem that we haven't found a solution to. And I'm not sure if I did reach out to the MASC about, any ideas about how to manage them. I do think that our minutes, we could be more concise and simpler. Some of us get pretty detailed with some of our minutes. But I'm really kind of just posing the question, how can I support the group in terms of helping for minutes to get done in a timely fashion? And yes, Member Hollins, I'm seeing your hand.
I have an idea. I've been thinking how to make it work. First, we're committed, and we say over and over, we really want to be transparent. And when I look up what that means, it means that you let the public know as quickly as possible what you're doing. And the Attorney General guidelines for public records do not say they have to be voted by the committee to be distributed. And there was a time so my suggestion is when the recording secretary sends minutes in, they're just posted at that time, and the Attorney General guidelines are to say unofficial. Then it doesn't have to go through so many people, and it'll just be automatically posted when the unofficial minutes are in. And my second suggestion is if we vote something that's really an important document, like new wages for substitutes, or something of that nature that's really important, that it be attached to our minutes so that it's there as a record. The reason I think that is I was going through all our minutes to look at what we did during the year, and we voted goals in December of 2017. This isn't a fault-finding comment. I'm trying to explain why I think this would be helpful. There's one document with our agenda of information for the meeting. It's just one file that's 122 pages long. I was very glad to see tonight that the informational bulletins are separated out from business. But on page 92 are our goals that we ended up voting. They don't show up again appended to our minutes. That was a pretty important decision to adopt goals. So the only way you can find them is to go back, hunt through that 122-page document. So I think if we vote something important like that, like goals or new wage schedule, attach that to our minutes and just post them as unofficial minutes. I went around and I looked up the review, the 10 best school districts in Massachusetts. I went to their websites. They all seem to have, every meeting minutes are right there. So that's my recommendation. They go right from a recording secretary to be posted, or even let that person post them as unofficial.
Thanks, Member Hollins. I want to clarify. I really was mostly talking about subcommittees. This seems to be more of a subcommittee kind of workload situation that we have to deal with. Since we generally do have a recording secretary, Susan Farber, who does get our minutes in a timely fashion, we could, if we wanted to vote what Member Hollins is suggesting, that's fine. But it's a separate issue than supporting our subcommittee chair people in ensuring that our subcommittee minutes get done in a timely and kind of consistent fashion. The council has the clerk's office to listen to recordings of the meetings and actually write up the minutes for them. So that is something that could be done. Not necessarily through the clerk's office, but it could be a solution. So maybe it's best for me to just take a couple steps back. And when I brought the topic up, I saw Member Alexander nod his head that in kind of an agreement, I think, about the minutes being a little bit of a problem. Maybe it's not a problem. I kind of want to see, are we looking for support with subcommittee minutes, or do we feel like we can get them done in a timely fashion? Member Holland.
That may differ from subcommittee to subcommittee.
Okay, yeah, Member Alexander.
My only problem in the past is sometimes I have a little bit of problem with the software, Google Drive. I tend to lose things, and it is a really difficult piece of software to work with at times. So just me getting used to it, but I'm open to any suggestions on how to make this go more efficiently. Maybe recording the minutes if we're allowed, and maybe expanding on the recording secretary being able to help us out with those types of things. That's an idea that I can entertain.
I saw Mayor Martin first and then Member Extra.
I think this has been an ongoing issue for several years, and the solution we came to several years ago was that we would have the department pay for a recorder that would go to the subcommittee meetings, akin to the clerk that takes care of the minutes for the town council. So the school committee actually, and we've had people who have been on the council and the school committee and have often said and always said there's more work on the school committee than there is on the council. And we all know that roughly 47 to 65% of the expenditures in the city are on the school committee. So maybe we should have better recordings and reportings of the minutes of the subcommittee meetings. So I don't know what it would cost, but it's probably somewhere, it's a part-time job between $20,000 and $25,000 a year. That would be documenting historically what we're actually doing for work.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Member Ekstrom.
I'm just curious, is there some universal form that says how to do minutes? Because when I look at all of our minutes from each of the subcommittees, they're formatted differently, which is fine. I mean, it is what it is. But if we had a uniform format, perhaps that would make things go more quickly?
There are some templates available, and also there are some guidelines that we can get to the group.
I mean, I don't know if that would just make it easier on the people who are needing to submit minutes, because it's my only thought.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I kind of want to take some action on this in some way, and I think that quite possibly the easiest thing to do is to request the superintendent to see how our current staff could potentially take over these tasks from recordings. Is that something that...
Oh,
Mayor Martin?
I would move that we instruct the superintendent to hire a recorder for subcommittee minutes, and if that's acceptable, we can discuss it further. If there's a second.
Okay.
Second.
Second by Member Alexander. Discussion. Member Hollins.
If a subcommittee chair did not need that and was able to get his or her minutes in promptly, are you thinking you would always have one person paid to do that, or that it would be on a need basis?
I was thinking that it would be one hired person, and the job would focus on attending every subcommittee meeting, recording the discussion, and providing the template for the minutes to the website and to the district members.
Member Ekstrom.
I think that's a great idea. Is it fiscally responsible of us to hire someone to do that when we have all kinds of other stuff going on? I mean, we have so many things that we're trying to take care of, but we want to hire someone to take minutes.
Well,
If
the
we can
town
afford
clerk-
it, totally.
The town council has a clerk, and then they also hire a town council clerk to take care of all the business and take care of the recordings, minutes, reports, agendas, and so on.
I'm not saying that it's not a big job, but
You're right. So I think it would be not only fiscally responsible, but it would probably be an additional asset to the superintendent's office to loosen up some of the other tasks that Joanne is doing.
we're Jordana.
Superintendent.
I would just like to support the mayor's recommendation on this. I've had some brief preliminary conversations with the chair about whether this could be accomplished with existing staff, and I agree with the mayor's thought process on this, that this is a part-time job and that there aren't adequate available hours among existing staff to take this on, and I think it would have to be a new hire, and I think there is some value in helping the committee accomplish the work. There is a lot of work that gets done on this committee, and I do think having some professional support in terms of the just administrative task is quite reasonable, given the volume of work that's handled by this committee.
Thank you. Member Alexander.
Yeah, I also supporting this, the idea from the mayor, and sitting as the chair of subcommittee and attending subcommittee meetings regularly, it is difficult to keep up with the conversation. And our job is to go into the room and worry about the conversation and discussion, not trying to make sure we're taking a little bit of notes here. And that does become, that it becomes difficult. So 2 hours later, 3 hours later, did so-and-so say this or that? And so by having someone whose sole purpose is to pay attention to what has been said, gives our minutes accuracy. So down the road, we don't have confusions on reading old minutes, whether we trust them or not, or whether it was complete or not. So I believe wall to wall for every committee needs to participate with us.
Okay. Yes, Member Karen.
At first, I wasn't sure, but now I think that it's probably a really good idea. As I sit and take my minutes, I end up not being able to keep up with the conversation or forgetting to write what I said in the minutes. So then I get home and I'm like, I know I said something. So I think it's probably a really good way to be very transparent with the public and make that very clear.
Okay. So there's a motion on the table to hire someone to record minutes for subcommittees. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay. That looks like unanimous. Right, did you vote yes? Thank you. Wow, that feels kind of good. Yes, Member Hollins.
I would like to not lose the posting of school committee records. I know that you intended to talk about subcommittee, and that's a good discussion. But records don't go up immediately after they're available, and that means if any of us, it's also an issue when I looked, I don't want to go into it, but I've spoken to the chair before. It's sometimes several months between our own official subcommittee's recommended school committee, but the school committee's official minutes don't go up quickly. So if people want to see what happened at our, like this meeting may not be posted for 2 or 3 months because it waits for it to come up and the vote. So I think it's really important, since it's allowable under the open meeting law, to get our unofficial meeting minutes up when they're available, so that people can see what we did soon, if they didn't watch our meeting. I think that's quite important.
Are you putting forward a motion?
Yes, I'd like to, and we've talked about this and made motions about this a couple of times. I'd like to motion that our recording secretary for school committee minutes put unofficial on our draft minutes, and that those minutes are posted as soon as they're available.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Member Karen. Any deliberation? Member Ekstrom?
Isn't that just doing double the work? I mean, I don't disagree, it's important to get everything out there right away, but if they're, so we've hired a person, and now they're gonna post one time, and then, once they're approved, they're gonna post it again, and it seems to me it's double the work, and there's a risk that whatever is the official version would be confused with the unofficial version, and I feels like a lot of work that isn't necessary.
Mayor Martin?
What I've seen on other sites is that the minutes are posted, and then there's kind of like a qualifier or disqualifier. These minutes have not been voted by the school committee. And so it's just a transparent recording, again, of what happened, and then when it goes to the next school committee meeting or 2 meetings later and they're voted, then that sentence can be removed.
Any further deliberation? Yes, Superintendent?
I'd like to just offer some perspective in terms of public records requests and the information we do receive in the superintendent's office. I'm not aware of any public records requests for draft minutes in the superintendent's office in the last 4 years. People do tend to look at the website regularly. They do contact us and look for, we have media requests for packets and so forth. And because of those requests, we have improved what's on our website. And in fact, Member Hollins made several suggestions about how to make more publicly available documents. So we have made improvements to the agenda and the minutes and the materials packets as they're available. They're all fully online at gpsk12.org. And tonight's packets, for example, if you're here in the viewing audience, you can see them, but if you want to go online right now, they're available online right now. But again, we just have not seen a demand for that type of request. It's not to say that we shouldn't make it available, but in terms of public requests, we haven't seen many, and I do believe it's a departure from past practice because we have always waited, probably for the last decade or so, for them to be approved, as far as I'm aware.
Member Hollins?
I don't want to dispute past practice, but we used to put draft unofficial minutes, and whether we did or whether we didn't, anyone can request our minutes within 10 days if we want to be transparent. Since anybody can request and must receive our draft minutes within 10 days, why do we want to hold up the public knowing what took place at our meeting for 3 months or 2 months until the minutes? Why not just let people see what we did at our meetings?
Any further deliberation? I'll just make a couple of small comments for those that are watching and to remind committee members too, that our minutes from the previous meetings are always included in our packets, and our packets are always posted online. I'm really proud of that. The council doesn't post their packets. Hint. So I think it's really cool that we do that. And we're pretty open and transparent about the work that we're doing, and we provide the materials to our public, and I really like that. So they are there. With all that being said, I don't have a problem with draft minutes getting posted. I think it's totally fine as long as they're labeled appropriately. And if we do hire on some additional support with subcommittee minutes especially, I think it will help to smooth everything over. So with all that said and no further deliberation, there's a motion on the table from Member Hollins to post draft unofficial minutes as soon as possible. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous, so motion passes, and we will put that practice into place. Thanks, everyone, for that. So next item on my little chair's report is that I have received several requests from committee members to set some boundaries on deliberation. I did bring this up at a previous meeting with you all, but it wasn't, televised, I don't think. So I just kind of want to reiterate that. I probably should have opened with it. The request and suggestion put forward was to either, put a limitation of 2 to 3 minutes for each individual member for comments, and to ensure that every member has the ability to comment on a particular subject, and if there's given time, we can have time to kind of go back around in the circle, and to limit as best we can to essentially kind of like 2 rounds of committee member input. So I don't feel that we necessarily need a motion on this. It worked out pretty well recently in an executive session meeting. It kept the flow moving. And unless there's some opposition to having a 2 to 3 minute timed, like, sort of deadline for our commentary, then I think we should move forward with that practice. I'm seeing some yeses. Yes, Mayor Martin.
Well, I think you started the meeting off with public comment.
Yes.
And how many minutes did
Public comment is 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Per our policy.
So we're a bit more than public comment. We're here for 3 to 5 hours on a second
Sure.
Wednesday of the month and other times. So I think that's too restrictive to put a time limit on member comments on any topic. I think all members have the right to call the question. And if somebody is filibustering in any way, then there's always a right for the member to call the question. So I think it's very important not to stifle our conversation with a time limit, particularly when we are representing everything in the school department. Just my side.
Okay. Member Alexander.
Well, being the one committee member here that probably speaks the least of everybody, I tend to be quiet. Routinely, as secretary, I keep a stopwatch on how we're moving along, and I'm looking at the chair's timed agenda and making sure we're staying on track. And for the most part, Your Honor, we do stay within the 3-minute timeline. So I don't see any problems that we've been having so far in length of conversation, but spirited discussion. But the idea of coming here is well, for example, I bring my notes. I'm ready to talk when I'm ready to talk, and I don't want to wander off to what I need to talk on. So, like I said, I think we're aiming in the right direction on this. So,
Member Holmes.
Well, I usually have a bit to say, and I would rather rely on the chair to move the discussion and to keep our focus on making quality decisions. I sometimes feel like the push is, let's do this quickly, but some of the decisions are really important, and sometimes the details are really important to making an informed decision. So I would rather not have a time and rely on the chair to say, to moderate the discussion.
Okay, thanks for everyone's input, and I appreciate the responses. And I'm glad to bring it to everyone's awareness that we do want to keep our comments concise and keep the flow of the conversation moving. And I will try my best to do my job to do that, and also to ensure that all committee members have the opportunity to speak. And last thing on my chair's agenda is really to welcome 2 new staff members. We have a new business manager and a new food service director. Our new business manager is Mr. Steve Nemberkow, and our new food service director is Ms. Eliza Calkins. Did I get that right? Perfect. So hello to both of you. I know that the superintendent probably has a little more to say about it, but I just wanted to extend a heartfelt welcome to both of you here. Yeah, please come forward. Just say hello. There's no pressure or anything. Yeah, sure.
So I'm I have put together a little bit of information in your packet, but I'm delighted to welcome these two key members of our administrative team. I'll start with Eliza. Eliza has most recently been the food service director in East Longmeadow, and we're really pleased to have her here with us. She really impressed the interview team with her passion about the high quality of nutritious school meals that our students will receive under her leadership, and really excellent parent communication and outreach. And we really think that she can take the vision of the high-quality meals in the Greenfield Public Schools and continue them. And we are also fortunate that Madison Walker, our outgoing food service director, has agreed to provide a bridge and do some mentoring and support. And she's staying on working with us to provide that continuity. So we're really excited to have you with us, Eliza. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I feel very honored to have been chosen, and it's a rare opportunity to get to work with Madison, and I'm really looking forward to working in the schools here.
And the committee got to meet Steve through the interview process previously. We're really excited to have Steve as a very experienced school business manager joining us. He also has a lot of expertise in the area of human resources, something we've spent a lot of time talking about in this committee. I had the privilege of working with Steve when I was a principal in Chicopee, and he was the business manager there in Chicopee at the time. So Steve's already begun his work, and we've hit the ground running. We're really excited to have you here, Steve. Thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you. I was lucky enough to get in about 4 or 5 days early, and I'm on day, 7 now? So we're chugging along. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll let you, Eliza, will let you dismiss yourself for the evening. I don't think there's any business that you need to, but thank you for joining us to
Thank you for your
introduce yourself.
time.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, so that concludes my chair's report. I'll yield the floor to the superintendent.
All right, so we have a number of things in your packet that you've probably had some time to spend with. These did go out a little earlier for this particular meeting, so you could read through everything. In the superintendent's report, I've included some of the many recent newspaper articles and local media coverage, because there have been so many wonderful things taking place in our schools. Of course, we wrapped up the school year, and even though it's July, there's an awful lot happening. So there's several articles included there. I did want to provide a brief update on the Greenfield Middle School principal search. We have put together a terrific team of interviewing representatives, parents, teachers, and so forth. We had some great candidates come through. Unfortunately, the salaries that we were offering were not as competitive as we would have liked, and we did have 2 really terrific candidates that have accepted jobs in other locations. Our interview committee was impressed with the quality of candidates coming through, and the candidates were really impressed with the district. But we do need to extend that search a bit longer. The outgoing principal is with us until September, so we do have some time to complete this search, and that is why we started it early. But if we are not able to find a successful candidate soon, then it may be realistic to look at an interim candidate to be sure we have strong leadership in place well before the start of the school year. So by next school committee meeting, I absolutely expect to have a formal appointment for you. You already met our 2 new administrators joining the central office team, our business manager and our food service director, and that really helps us get up to speed in the central office and get our work moving along. Elsewhere on the agenda tonight, you will see a report about the educator evaluation system, but because it's in the superintendent's report as well, I'll just note that I'm very pleased with the work our principals have done. They have, in their buildings, evaluated 100% of the teachers that are under the supervision of the principal, and we have also completed our instructional assistant evaluations. And what this means is that there are conversations taking place about teaching and learning and feedback going to our educators, and teachers and principals spending time talking about what matters most, which is our children and their learning. So I'm very impressed with the focus of our principals on this most important task that we do as administrators. We're moving forward with the work of the public announcement, or PA systems. We've been working on getting quotes and moving this process forward. We do have to deal with prevailing wage and lots of technicalities and the work of getting these into our schools, but we're continuing to move that forward and getting them installed as soon as possible.
We are rolling out a new communication system in the schools, and I could not be more delighted. This will allow text, calls in multiple languages, and improved communication with families. This was something that long ago in our family communication outreach survey was identified as a long-range plan, and we have completed training on this internally, and we're going to be releasing information to families well before the start of the school year. So it's in place, and we're getting up to speed, and it syncs with our Power School system, so the data will be very easy for parents to manage and for schools. There will be an app on your phone, which is free, which parents can download, and I think a lot of parents have been looking forward to this. It's a school messenger communications platform, and it does have the functionality of many languages that we can translate as well. As far as the Director of Pupil Services, we have an open position that we've posted, and we have some absolutely fantastic candidates coming through. We are scheduled for interviews early next week. We are looking for, we're in the process of putting together a parent, administrator, and school-based principal on our interview team. And then we would make a recommendation to the school committee, and then we would need an interview date for the school committee to meet with any finalists coming out of that search process. And then at the end of your report, you have just a sample of some of the recent and then upcoming events, which I won't read on camera, although you can go to our website and see all of the upcoming events. You also have a staffing report. There are a fair number of changes throughout the summer, some that we've talked about already here. I always like to provide you advanced copies of advertisements and publications, so we've featured the Greenfield High School Library Makerspace, which is a really terrific initiative by Greenfield High School librarian Jess Pollock, and a way for our older students to really get involved hands-on, a lot of STEM activities, robotics, and just creativity and ingenuity using their hands. We do feature the Green Room summer program over the summer, and there's information on that in your packet. The several pieces of news media that I ever covered. I have included just some of the variety of topics that get covered on social media, including this training that I spoke about and a lot of the summer professional development taking place. You can see snapshots from that here with a fairly sizable following on Twitter that has been continuing to grow. And so shout out to everybody following on Twitter. And of course, we cannot forget the terrific success of the girls softball. What a season they had, you know, to have a Western Mass victory after so many years of not. The girls in athletics and a number of sports have had really great years. Boys, you know, next year will be your year maybe, but really proud of our Green Wave girls in particular. At the end of that packet, you have the business office report from our business manager, Steve Nimbercombe. And there is an item on here, number 4, that I will ask the chair to call for a vote at some point. This is a cost from the Four Corners paving project where the costs were higher than anticipated. And in order for the paving project to move forward, I have pledged school department funds to meet the total project cost. This was not part of our budget, and it's not typically something that we use educational funds for in this way. But if we did not put forward these funds, then the number of parking spaces would be severely restricted. And the school committee has done a lot of work, and health and safety in particular, in improving traffic conditions at Four Corners. So to not put forward these funds would really take a step backwards in terms of traffic flow there. So I'm asking school committee to officially weigh in and support putting forward this funds. The timing of it is that if the contractors did not start their work, they had to take the project in one of two directions. So if this was voted down, the paving would have occurred without adequate parking, as is there now. So we can come back to that.
It is on the agenda.
And I think that's all I have for you in my report. Thank you.
Any questions for the superintendent? Mayor Martin.
Yes, Superintendent. We have been working with the Attorney General's office regarding Chapter 76. And do you have an update, status report on your communication? And the Director of Pupil Services was also going to provide some information, and now that she's resigned, is that in limbo, or she'll has she completed the communication with the AG's office, or shall the mayor's office look to supplement the information?
I don't have a status report from her on that yet. She was in district, for example, today, so she is still doing some work as authorized by the committee. So I can get a status report from her for you on that.
Okay.
Member Hollins?
I have 3 quick comments. One is I have been looking around at websites of the best schools, and several do have something on that you can translate whatever's on the website into other languages. So I was really interested to see on our website that, I think I saw it the last time I was there, that you can click whatever language you speak and everything's translated, so I think that's terrific. I wanted to say something about principal salary. I think I've brought this up 5 or 6 times, that the school committee look at principal salary and make sure we're offering equitable salary. It's a guideline that the school committee is responsible for compensation, but it worries me to hear that top candidates for the middle school maybe are dropping out because we haven't looked at principal salaries. I just want to bring that up. I think it's really important. We have more than one principal opening. I'm not saying that we say this job has this amount of money, but at least a range so that we know that we're in the ballpark and we're not losing top candidates for that reason. And I wanted to ask if a member of the school committee will be sitting in on the pupil personnel interviews.
So typically with a school committee hire, we do not have a school committee representative early in the process. With the middle school principal search, we did have a school committee representative, but it's because they're not then part of the appointing committee at the end. So it is not designed that there is a school committee representative prior, in the screening round, prior to them coming forward.
Will there be multiple candidates, more than one candidate the school committee will interview?
That's to be determined based on the candidate pool. More than likely, there will be one, if there's one clear recommendation from the screening committee, then more than likely that there will be one person brought forward.
Mayor Martin?
A couple questions. Just to follow up on the principal salaries, do we have a policy whereby the school committee sets the range of salaries or sets the salary for principals?
Range. I
Range.
believe.
So I don't recall doing that in
Hasn't been done in, I don't know, maybe 20
several
years.
yeah. So how is it possible to negotiate a salary when the school committee hasn't authorized a range?
Well, we have to hire people every year, so you're welcome to set a range. But we do this commensurate with experience and mindful of laws surrounding equal pay. And we're careful to consider in district what principals are making currently and to work within salary bands that are regionally competitive and within the budget.
So could you give me the range of what principals are making now?
I don't have it in front of me, but I'd be happy to send out that information.
Mayor Martin, did you have any more?
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about that, would you forward to me all the contracts for the existing principals that are staying through the school year?
Sure. So to-
Thank you. And then on the report for the staffing, there are 10 positions that are leaving. And then it said on the bottom, there's 9 retirements/resignation from various other positions. So I'm to assume these 10 plus 9 is 19 people in different various positions are leaving the district.
Out of about 400, that's not bad.
But is it a plus or is it 9?
Right, so typically we provide you with the professional, sort of folks with licenses, so administrators, and then as a courtesy, we provide teachers. So the note at the bottom might be temporary or instructional assistants, and so it's just additional information to the
That's
committee.
good. Thank you.
Member Hollins?
I just bring it up again. Could we bring up the subject of principal salaries and assign it to one of our subcommittees to look at it and have a range?
Yes, it actually has come to policy subcommittee before, and I believe that was with the intent of capping. And so I believe it's difficult to recall the deliberation that took place from that particular subcommittee meeting, but it is definitely something that the subcommittee can take on. And unless there's opposition, we can move it to policy subcommittee. Any other questions for the superintendent? Okay. School committee, subcommittee chairs. Would you like to start, Member Alexander?
Okay, Policy Subcommittee, we met on the 26th of June on 2018 at the Central Office Conference Room. Points of discussion for this agended meeting was continued discussion on Policy B, D, E, subcommittees of the school committee, where during the discussion, we came to a conclusion that the policy language on the original really was becoming very vague, and we weren't really certain about exactly if there was a discussion of subcommittees and special committees. And so a motion was made, and we tabled that policy indefinitely. This also led to a motion which I'll be presenting later on subscribing to the MASC Policy Review Program, which again will come up under item 5E. Later on, then we continued our discussion on students not being picked up from their school locations or bus or whatever, and came to this part of the discussion was we probably also needed input from the principals and school staff on dismissal procedures, because we are looking at possibly having to look at a dismissal policy, because it kind of goes in line with that. But the discussion ended with the superintendent going to be bringing us to our next meeting recommendations on how we're going to actually enforce and that students are safe and they are picked up by appropriate personnel. Next meeting for the policy committee is going to be the 24th of July at 12:30 at the school central offices. I'll just move right on with personnel, which that's going to be real easy. Personnel, we were unable to have a meeting this past month due to a personal issue that came up for me. Next meeting for personnel is going to be on the 17th of July, where the agenda is to start to begin the process of getting the superintendent's goals moved on, and so that we can make the timeline and suspense for this year. And that is all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Member Alexander? Okay. Member Karen, to Health and Safety? Well.
Health and Safety was unable to meet yesterday.
Okay. Thank you. And Member Ekstrom and I have had a conversation, and I sent her some materials, some supporting materials, to help to launch the strategic plan review goals subcommittee. So I believe that's in the works, so we should, be looking out for that. And Member Ekstrom, did you want to talk about the collaborative?
I did want to speak about the collaborative.
Great.
So the collaborative had their meeting, gosh, was it last week before? And it's just, I really enjoy going to these meetings because it's so interesting to hear what other districts are doing, and it's also interesting just to see kind of how they run their meetings. Just, it's interesting academic observation at the very least. But I also got a chance to speak with the director of the collaboration, whose name escapes me because I'm on TV, and talked to him a little bit about our discussion of an alternative school. And just that we had sort of dabbled in that a little bit, and I was thrilled to have him tell me that Jordana had already spoken to him about it and was being proactive. Not that I would doubt that she would do that anyway, it was just made me very happy that she was doing that. I think that any opportunity that we can utilize the collaborative and work with them to help us accomplish our goals is a wise decision. I think the more involved with them we are as a school district, and in following that it's a collaborative, it would benefit all of us. Then it would be wonderful. So.
Thanks, Member Ekstrom. Any questions for Member Ekstrom? Mayor Martin?
I believe the collaborative already does this type of school in the Berkshires,
They do.
so is there a reason why they didn't do it in Franklin County?
Jordana had spoken with them about it, and it was still kind of in discussion. And I said, well, now that I've sung my little song, I'll let you guys talk about it with Jordana. But they were very interested. I said, I don't know how we're going to do it, and with the school, whatever the special ed, people services director departing, that we could probably use some assistance and guidance. And they said, whatever we need, they were more than willing to help us out.
Member Hollins?
Just a point of information, before the current collaborative director and the current superintendent, the collaborative did organize with the Greenfield Schools an alternative high school program, and it was offered at Greenfield High Schools.
With the collaborative?
They ran it, yeah.
Oh, they ran. Oh, no.
Thank you. I did forget to give a little time to the budget subcommittee. Member Ward isn't here, he's the chair, but perhaps Mayor Martin or Member Hollins could speak briefly to the meeting.
Yes, Chairman Ward asked if I'd report on the meeting. We met July 6, 2018. We discussed, of course, we're discussing the budget. It was clarified that we have to finalize the FY19 budget by September. We had not finished a review of all of the revolving funds. In particular, we picked up the discussion of the special ed tuition revolving fund, which has a balance of $542,668. And when we went over it, our new revolving fund policy says the threshold should be at least $250,000 moving forward for lots of reasons. And the superintendent recommended that some of that money, above and beyond what we need to move forward, be used to set up an alternative program. And we took a vote, which was to recommend to the full committee sustaining $250,000 in the special ed tuition revolving fund and allowing the administration to use the balance as of July 6, 2018 for in-district special ed programming. The discussion, the intent is to create an alternative to expensive out-of-district programs and to also accrue new funds in the special ed tuition revolving fund by identifying available spaces in our Greenfield Public Schools special ed programs, inviting other districts to tuition students to our specialty programs, which the superintendent said is current practice. There was comment that if we used only money from the revolving fund to set up an alternative program, and in this case, the particular program mentioned was mentioned for 5 students, not that, I'm only mentioning what we talked about, and 2 would be from Greenfield because it's a very specialized program. But it may not be sustainable to only use money from this fund. Another item, and it was thought it might be a program for Green River School that was still being looked at. Another item that came up was the mayor saying that school choice was up $500,000 from the anticipated $2.3 million to $2.8 million. There was a question about whether or not we could verify if that was accurate. We spoke with new business manager Steve Nimbercow and went over his report, looking at cost center balances, and we're going to continue to look at the end of the year budget and also the budget coming forward. There's a feeling from the budget subcommittee based on revenues and votes that we will be able to fill the $800,000 gap that we reported on before. There will be changes to the budget we voted, so we need to revote that budget, and it's on our agenda. We have to revote the FY19 budget by September. In terms of calendar and agenda going forward, which was the latter part of our meeting when the superintendent and the mayor needed to leave, we discussed a set monthly meetings And also a set school committee agenda. We went through and talked about the policies we have in our policy book about budget. And in particular, it says that the budget should be looked at in stages. So we actually came up with a monthly, not only monthly meetings, it's our feeling that it's easier to cancel a meeting than to set one up in the moment because everybody's scheduled. So the three people on the budget committee are in concert about at least establishing twice a month. And if we don't need a meeting, it can be canceled. The chairperson wants short meetings, and this will allow if something comes up to get it addressed before school committee. And we have a proposed month-by-month calendar so that we can get through different topics, mostly our cost centers, and our calendar recommends that a draft budget be available in January because it has to be voted, it has to be advertised in February. So this was just proposed that we not only have set meetings, but also a set schedule of what we're talking about. That's it.
Mayor Martin.
Do we have a set meeting day?
What we talked about was first Wednesday, 12:30, I think, 12:30 or 1, short meeting, lunchtime-ish, and third Monday later, not during the school day.
Twice a month.
To set them for twice a month, shorter meetings, so that if you don't need it, you can cancel it. Otherwise, it's very hard to get a meeting scheduled, which is why we haven't met more frequently.
Thank you.
So you said a lot in your report just now. And not to call out Member Ward too intensely, but this is an example of where the committee hasn't seen minutes on this subcommittee meeting, and it would be really great if we had them. So I will definitely follow up with Member Ward about minutes from that meeting. It sounds like you discussed a lot of things. And then a question I have is, I heard a recommendation to the full committee related to the SPED revolving account. Is that correct?
Yes, the minutes were available to Member Ward within 48 hours, I believe. I don't know what happens afterwards, but there were minutes. Anyway, we took a vote to recommend to the full committee sustaining $250,000 in the special education tuition revolving fund and allowing the administration to use the balance as of July 6, 2018 for in-district special education programming. And the intent was a new program.
At the Green River School.
Yes, the intent is to create an alternative to expensive out-of-district programs and to accrue new funds in the special ed revolving fund by identifying spaces, inviting other students. A particular new program mentioned by the superintendent was for 5 students, a year-round program, high-intensive autism.
So is there...
Yes.
Yes, Mayor Martin.
Yes, the intent of the committee at that time in the discussion was to bring a motion to the full committee.
Yes.
And that motion is to allow all the funds from the special education account to be used for a new program at the Green River School, at the high school, to leave a balance in that account of $250,000. Additionally, to allow any revenues that occur between the vote and next year to be reimbursed or to be applied to that account. So whatever's in the account now, roughly $550,000, $300,000 will be taken out, $250,000 would be left in that account, but revenues between now and next year would go into that account.
It was up to 300? It was what the superintendent needed, up to 300?
I think it's a semi-official motion. So there's two parts. I heard that Mayor Martin is moving to allow funds from the special education revolving account to be spent to support a new high school program, with the limitation of ensuring that $250,000 remains in the account.
Perfect.
And additionally, to allow additional revenues to accrue in the special education revolving account.
Special
Perfect.
education tuition revolving.
I'll second that motion.
I'll second it.
Great, seconded by Member Hollins, put forward by Mayor Martin. I'd like to hear from the superintendent on this first, if that's okay with everyone, and then, of course, everyone else can comment. Superintendent.
Well, my comments are two-part. The first is I'll support the motion as put forward. There was a good discussion about the development of in-district programming and the fact that this is a new recommendation that has to do with the fact that several area programs or schools that serve our students that have a very high level of need out of district have closed. And so some of the students can be returned to the district, and we're essentially building, this is what Member Ekstrom was referring to earlier, as some of the early stages of developing a program here in district that serves not only our students, but may well serve some area students in other districts right now that could take advantage of this level of specialized programming. So this is both the right move for our students, and it's a very fiscally responsible move, and there's a potential to develop this program further in that other students can tuition into the program. So for a number of reasons, I support the motion, and we had a great discussion about it. And actually, I'll hold the second part of that. Just stop there.
I saw Member Hollins.
Well, I just wanted to say that we had a discussion, and it was very supportive of the superintendent's interest, but we really didn't have what it was going to cost, so we really didn't commit a specific amount of money. I think as long as we left $250,000, if the superintendent doesn't need $300,000, I wouldn't think it would all be used. So we didn't know, and the superintendent was going to bring a proposal. That's all. It's up to, but the mayor captured it by saying at least we're going to leave $250,000, and the superintendent could use the rest up to what is needed.
And I believe that was still qualified with the program that was to be presented. So we don't have a program yet. We're reviewing the program.
But we're supportive.
Great, and just as a friendly reminder, there should have been, all the members should have received in their inbox, their email inbox, a draft proposal for the Green River School, which includes some details on this program. I believe it was slated to be discussed at the Health and Safety meeting that unfortunately didn't have a quorum. So that information is forthcoming, and we do also have it set for our August, I guess, agenda, our main school committee agenda. And I believe that there is also one health and safety subcommittee meeting prior to that full committee meeting. So I anticipate that there will be additional deliberation on that proposal at that time. Okay, so there's a motion on the table. Is there any further deliberation or discussion on the motion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous. Oh!
No, I'm saying yes.
Oh,
I
you're
agree.
saying yes, okay. I'm like, you gotta say that. Okay, great. Any other questions? Did we cover everything that the full committee needs to do to support the work of this budget subcommittee? I think it was just the one motion, really, that was getting put forward, right? Okay.
Well, we did have another finance motion. I don't know if it comes up later to provide $15,000 for a complete project at Four Corners School.
This would be a good time for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to entertain a motion to move that agenda item to now, if we want to do that formally, and then discuss it.
Let's talk
Do we
about
want to move? Yeah. Or is anyone opposed to it? Moving number 6 up, talk about it now. Seeing everyone's on board. Okay, so let's jump into that. We have to vote to support utilizing district funds to supplement capital project payment capital pavement project at Four Corners Elementary. The superintendent did touch on that, and I do believe that it was deliberated, at least briefly, at the budget subcommittee. Do you have your hand up?
Yes, I have 2 questions. The first is, do you know if the paving or the repaving of the 2 play areas that have tennis courts is part of the repaving project at Four Corners? Because it's been some years that is so torn up that it has been recommended to be repaved. That's question 1. And the second question is, could we talk about where that money would come from? Because I support the funding, but we don't have a budget yet for next year, and we do have a facility revolving fund. If we voted, could it go back to Budget Committee to look at where that money might come from? Because we need to talk about the FY19 budget still.
Yes, superintendent.
So first, my understanding of this project is that it's the driveway area going into Four Corners School off of Ferrante, and then the area around what's now like the flagpole in the middle there. The rear, where the staff park behind the school, had an oil tank underground that had to be unearthed at the beginning of this year in order to complete paving at that part of the school, and the cost of removing that underground oil tank in a way that was environmentally appropriate is part of the reason that this project cost is higher than anticipated. So in terms of the scope, that it's the main area in terms of the drive and the parking. In terms of available funds, we would first use any remaining capital funds that are appropriate to this use, like leftover funds and extraordinary maintenance, if appropriate and not encumbered, or any leftover balance at the end of FY18 that as we close out our books and we liquidate a few leftover POs and so forth, so it'd be anything leftover from FY18 first that I would recommend putting towards this. But I will say that this is ongoing work that needs to be appropriated quickly, and I don't really recommend an extensive review at Budget and Finance Subcommittee. I would ask that if the subcommittee supports this, that they direct the superintendent and business manager to identify, and we could report back, but I don't want to delay the project moving forward.
I'll make a motion.
Sure, thank you.
So I'd like to move that $15,000 from available end-of-year FY18 funds be transferred to an appropriate budget line item and used for the Four Corners project.
Superintendent.
Your report shows that there's $10,000 as of today, so it may not all be FY18 available funds. For example, it could be FY17 carry forward capital, so that the motion as presented may not be possible.
Okay, then I'll withdraw the motion. I think we're supposed to approve transfers, and I think that if we have a capital expense, it's probably not in a capital account. It would have to be moved to an account, so I don't know what the motion should be.
Make a suggestion, Steve?
For the motion? Okay, I guess the motion should read that you approve funding of the parking lot project through any leftover FY18 funds, the accounts to be determined.
So you want me to make a new motion? To approve $15,000 to complete the Four Corners paving project using any leftover FY18 funds, and to approve those funds being transferred into an appropriate account.
With an account to be determined, yeah.
To be determined by the administration.
Second.
I just wanted to get the transfer in there.
So I just want to clarify, does that, so I feel like that's, the suggestion would also kind of kept us in FY18, is that a problem?
Do you imagine that? Because some
No,
of...
I don't think that'll be a problem at this point. We're working on closing and there's definitely enough funding.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion? Is everyone clear on what we're voting on? Seeing yeses. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous. Thank you, and thank you, Steve, for your help. So let's jump back to our subcommittee reports. I think we've concluded budget, is that right? Yes, Superintendent.
I do just want to make a note on the report that was read out. I have not received those minutes, and the mayor and I were not able to attend the end of that meeting because of a previously scheduled town school meeting at which the chair was present. I do have a concern about the entire direction of budget and finance being set when both the mayor and superintendent were not there to weigh in, and a number of there was a lot of content discussed, I think, when a number of the people were not able to provide any meaningful comment. So that's a concern.
Thank you. I believe also our new business manager was only there for the first part of the meeting too, and as you heard earlier, Mayor Martin was asking about the dates and stuff. So I do want to be sure that everyone's included, and I'll follow up with Member Ward about it. Moving forward, I think there's one other school committee representative, Member Hollins, for planning and construction.
Yes, we did meet. A continuing topic for Greenfield School roofs are being considered for solar installation. We have prior to this meeting, we have voted that we work with the school committee, support Carol Collins, who is the energy director for the city, working on Greenfield High School. We've voted that before. So they're now actively looking at 4 school roofs for solar projects.
Yes, Superintendent.
Are there any minutes available for this or anything in writing beyond the sentence or so that was provided here? Because this is something that the schools could work much more closely, and our liaison right now is that report that you just provided. Is there any more significant information you could provide?
There are minutes taken at every meeting. They're city minutes.
Could you provide them along with the other minutes to the committee?
If I have them, I don't know that I get them, but I could find them.
City council?
Yeah, it's the planning and construction. Are they posted?
Right. Yes.
I do know that I asked at the meeting that Carol come to one of our meetings and explain to the school department what she was doing, and she did come, and there was a vote to support her work, but there are minutes taken by the city of every meeting. So I'll figure out how to get them to you.
Quickly, I can bring us up to date, I think.
Great.
So Carol, obviously, the Director of Energy and Sustainability in Greenfield. We have received a grant from DOER about 2.5 years ago for solar storage. When we built the high school, we constructed the high school to accept panels and arrange for an inverter and solar storage in a mechanical room. To this point, we have been working with, we've done the request for proposal, working with the vendors. DOER, Department of Energy and Resources, has asked us to triple the project using the entire roof, increasing the solar storage. They will pay for everything extra, as well as the interconnection fee, which with Eversource has increased rapidly over the past 3 or 4 years. So it's several hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was slowing us down and throwing us in a bit of a spiral. So now with that new support from DOER, we expected in writing, and we've been working with the group at UMass and Boston. So that entire solar storage project is still a go, but there probably won't be any written confirmation of what's going to happen until September, October. And it won't go up till next year.
So I just want to clarify, I heard 2 different things. One is a lot of information about what we have already voted on, which was some solar at the high school that everyone was excited about. And then I heard from Member Hollins just moments ago that perhaps there's interest in putting solar panels on different school buildings outside of the high school. So I just want to ensure that the school committee is informed about that, and that if we need to take a vote on that, that we're just informed and we're able to support the project. So if there's a vote needed, is there a vote needed to do that? It sounds like some stuff is in action.
The stuff for the high school has already been voted.
Yep.
The other schools, we did an audit about 6 or 7 years ago on all municipal buildings, and several schools had the capacity for solar, when we never had a program to step into for nothing. So we're waiting for that program. As
Okay.
each school comes up, whether it's AEL or Federal Street, which are probably the two closest, we would come to the school committee for approval to use the roof in that
Okay.
school
And so
building.
at this time, there's no need for a vote. There's action happening related to the high school. We've already voted on that, and everyone's up to date. Is that?
But there'll still be communication when that gets rolling too,
Great.
Yeah.
with the superintendent.
Perfect.
Yes, I think right after that meeting, I wrote a note to Katie, and I may have copied you, just saying, here's what just came up, and that it probably should come up at a facilities meeting. It was just what was being discussed. There wasn't anything that said, on this date, we're going to do something at the middle school. I do recall, though, it was 3 other schools mentioned, and I think I notified Katie right away to bring that up. What I remember is that Four Corners is not considered a good school for solar, and I think Green River is not either. Or North Parish is not either. And they're looking at the other school.
Okay. I think that concludes reports from everyone. So we'll move on to our main business item. Our first business item is the school committee self-evaluation, and I've listed it as the school committee self-evaluation exploration. We do have 2 representatives from the MASC here today to help us with this. Also to help us with the MASC policy services if we have questions for both of these items. And if you recall from our last regular meeting, there was a request from the committee to take a look at some options for self-evaluation and an interest in actually following through or hearing the input from self-evaluation at the August meeting. So in your packet, you'll see a couple of different examples of rubrics that are here. And the first, I believe, 11 pages, it starts with the benefits of the school committee self-evaluation and ends with what happens when things go wrong is the last page. This is put forward thanks to Pat from the MASC as a recommended tool, a simplified tool for school committee self-evaluation. And Pat has offered her services to actually take committee input and compile it together and report it back to the school committee. So that first rubric and those first 11 pages are the sort of MASC recommended sort of simplified version for us. Then there are a couple of other rubrics that I also included in the packet just for us to kind of take a look at, and because I said I would explore different things that were available to us. Some of these are a lot more intense. The big, larger sheet is, I believe, an extension of the district governance program that the MASC has that we've sort of tapped into here and there. I believe that all of them actually do reflect the interests of the school committee. You'll also see in your packet our self-evaluation policy that was last updated and voted 6/8/2016. So this is all here for our information. I think that I will invite Pat to come up and just give us a little bit of information about what the MASC recommends for self-evaluation. And I think that it would be great for us to walk away from this meeting with a commitment to a particular rubric and timing of when we will review our self-evaluation.
Okay.
Thanks to both of you for coming.
Thank you. This is fun for a Thursday.
Wednesday.
Not so much on a Thursday.
It is Wednesday.
Okay, for those who don't know us, I'm Pat Carrera, and I've been at MASC for a few years. I'm 22, but who's counting? And Liz is been with us.
I'm Liz LaFond, and I've been working with MASC for about 5.5 years on various projects, including district governance, and have done some policy work, superintendent searches, and open meeting laws. I seem to always draw that short straw at the training.
It's very important.
So the self-evaluation that you and I spoke about, I mean, you do have other rubrics, I understand. I like the KISS method, keep it simple. Stupid, okay? And that's what I think MASC's is. It's very simple. It's all written out for you, and it's a very good place for you to start to do an evaluation. It covers all of the areas that you need to be fluent in, and you can get through it very quickly. It covers governance and operations and member relations, school committee, superintendent relations, the community, covers all of that, and you can do it very quickly. It's not very difficult to do. We like to have you, once you've done it, and it's anonymous, so understand you don't sign it.
Unless you wish to.
Unless you wish to, correct. And then send it to either myself or Liz, probably me, and we'll go through it, and we'll do all of the tabulating that needs to be done, and come back to you with a report that says, this is what you look like, and this is what you said you needed to do, and we will bring you a spreadsheet also that shows you what you need to do and what the results of your report was, so there's no question about what you've said. The good news is nobody knows who said what, except me, or Liz. And so I would encourage you to do this. It doesn't take that long, maybe 25 minutes of your time just to fill it out. It's getting it to us, and you can do it online, and you can send it to us online, and we're happy to work with it that way. So if you have any questions, now's the time to ask.
Okay. Any questions for Pat and Liz?
Is there any cost?
No.
We do this for free.
Yes. We do a lot for free. You just haven't given me the chance to come out and talk to you.
As members. This is one of your member
As
services.
members. Okay.
So whichever version you choose is obviously up to you, right? I would just say that as part of the district governance work, I would say that DESE funded that work, and they wanted to see a DESE-like rubric as part of the self-evaluation process. Some committees do use that. Committees who have not typically been through the self-evaluation process first, we like to suggest starting sort of small, getting a feel of where you are, and then you can then compare that to the rubric. You can begin to move forward and build on, sort of that first glance at where you are and what you're doing and how you're doing it. We'll also bring back some suggestions about how to move some of the work forward that might or might not, you might have some needs.
We're not saying you do, but you
No, we're not saying you do because we haven't seen the self-evaluation yet, but it would be unusual for any committee that there weren't some things that needed to be worked on. Some committees are very strong in some areas and spend less time working on others,
So
Are
is
there
it
any
jumping on point?
questions? My only question is really about timing. The school committee had expressed an interest in actually getting the results at our August meeting, so that would be about a month from today.
Well, let me say this to you. If you're all very good doobies and you get all of this information back to us in a reasonable amount of time, then we can probably make that deadline for you.
Okay.
It's all up to you. We're happy to do it. We just need the material back so that we can do it. And your next meeting is when?
It's the second Wednesday, so it's the 8th, is that right?
I believe so, August 8th.
Katie's right, August 8th.
August 8th? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to tell you that if you accept this tonight and you agree that this is what you want to do, and this is the instrument that you want to use, then I would do it as quickly as possible and get it back to us, today's Wednesday, by next Wednesday.
So 1 week from today.
A week from today.
Okay.
Okay?
Do you have your hand up? I also saw you. Are you? Okay. I saw you at the same time.
Joy?
Go ahead.
Well, I want to say that I read through the materials, and I particularly like the one-page document you have, which says the benefits of school committee self-evaluation. I think that's really not only interesting, but it's on point. And number 3 says, this is the benefit, by evaluating and reassessing its goals and reviewing its primary responsibilities, the committee sets an example for others within the system. I think that's really true. And in fact, this committee has set goals, not only in its policies, there are long-standing broad goals like making sure student achievement is moving ahead and we're responsible. So I really appreciate your document on the benefits of self-evaluation. And on the appendix, however, I don't mind this, fill-in-the-blank form, it's just my own opinion. But some of the items here I disagree with because, just particularly on the section on strategic planning and fiscal management. And the reason is there's an opinion here on how you think the budget should be done. All budgets are done on this bottom-up basis. So it may be that the school committee has its own policy and strategy for budget, and that's not it. So I kind of object to the questions that say, not how do you think you're doing, but here's how you should do it, and we're evaluating. So against what MASC's belief is, it may not fit the district. So I had some question there. But to the point about evaluating your goals and your actual policies about goals, there's nothing in this document that includes an evaluation of what did you accomplish this year, and did you meet the goals you set? This is an opinion. Do you think your policies are up to date? Well, we know they're not.
Correct.
But there's nothing that's really a review of what you did. And I'm mentioning that because each year I take the time to go through what are our goals, what does our policy say our goals are, and what are the goals that we voted. And then I just finished doing this. I go through every set of school committee minutes and I take whatever we did and I put it under one of the goals. So it's very clear to see from what we actually did. Did we meet our goals? And that's the only objection I have to this form, is it does not include a review of what did you do in the last year and what did you accomplish and did you meet your goals.
Well, this is just a getting you started, okay, to see
I know,
where you
but
are.
In terms of getting it accomplished, I think that's an important component.
Well, let me share this with you. We just finished a school committee evaluation for the second time in 2 years with Gateway Regional, and they use this instrument. And we worked with them when we came back and gave them their report. We worked with them for, I don't know, it took us about 2 hours, and we came up with 6 strong goals. And they worked on them for the year. And this time when we went back, we did this again, and this time when we went back, they had worked very, very hard on the goals that they set for each other and the district. And it was amazing. It was the best evaluation that I have seen in my 20-something years at MASC. It really was. They understood what they did. They understood what they had to do it. The superintendent understood. The business manager understood. They knew if there was monies involved, where it was going to come from. They were just outstanding. to the point where I've encouraged them to try and be part of our conference this year, to talk about what they did and how they did it with their goals, because they just, it was wonderful, and they were ecstatic that they had accomplished what they had accomplished. They set their own goals, and Susan, the reason that's not here is because we don't know what your goals are, so you need to tell us what your goals are. And when we come back with a report, that's what we intend to do, is to sit down and say, okay, this is what you said. Some of you understand your goals, some of you don't understand your goals. So let's pick out some goals that you want to accomplish. Whether they're short-term or whether they're long-term, it doesn't matter. But you should have a solid 6 to start with, not 106, not 60, okay? Just 6 that you can actually look at and say, we can do this, we can accomplish this. And then you have a schedule of how, when, why, who's involved, what it's going to cost, if there's a cost factor, and you will understand it. And then so does your superintendent, and so does the superintendent's team. And so does the district. So that's why it's not there. It's not for us to tell you what your goals are. It's for you to tell us what your goals are and what you want to do. It's just for us to get you there as quickly and cleanly as we possibly can.
So if I may, this is a temperature taking.
Right.
Right. What do all the members and collectively, what does the group feel about their work and how it's moving forward? How are you working as a team? We did find in Gateway, for example, that after their initial self-evaluation, and a better understanding that the group as a whole, there were a couple members that understood the committee's work on the goals, the overarching goals that the committee had set for the district. So they worked deliberately to involve all the members and regularly check in at meetings around the goals and have reports on what had been accomplished, who had accomplished them, so that everybody had a better understanding of how that work was moving forward. So after the initial temperature taking, there were some areas that they felt they needed to work more on, such as knowing what the strategic goals and the overarching goals were and what the work was towards accomplishing those goals, so that all members better understood that work.
Thank you.
Some did. Some were more actively involved than others. Some were new members. It's a large committee. So they needed to take the time as a committee to set some sort of operating protocols so that they were sure that all members were getting the information consistently. It was the same information, to your point about transparency. Everybody was getting the same thing at the same time and having that opportunity for a discussion of the whole group.
Thank you. Member Alexander, you've been waiting. Thank you.
At this time, Chair, I'd like to present a motion.
Okay.
I move that the Greenfield School Committee accept the Massachusetts Association of School Committees rubric and instrument for our school committee self-evaluation.
Second.
Okay, second by Member Karen. Is there further discussion?
Is there a choice that we're making here? Are there 2 methods to do the...
No, ours is only one. I'm writing on myself, I'm sorry. Ours is, I think you have a couple of others you said.
Fill in the blank one?
Well, let's clarify with
and
Member Alexander.
We can do this online, okay? We're happy to send, you do have it electronically, so all I need are your email addresses, and we can send it to you. You can do it online and then send it back to us, as opposed to sitting here doing it unless you want to.
And to clarify with you, Member Alexander, you put forward the motion. Are you
We're accepting the instrument
recommended by Pat and Liz, the simplified?
Yeah.
The one with the blanks to fill in.
Yeah. And that will come back to us. This will be, everything that you see in this packet will be online, and you'll be able to read it again.
But is it this one?
Excellent.
Because there's another one that folds out that looks like this, and it's
But that's
very...
not from them.
Oh, that's not from us. This is from us. The one from us is the one that says benefits of a school committee evaluation.
Yep, and it's, I think it's 11 pages
But the
altogether.
checklist is just called appendix, is that it? I don't know.
I think those are,
Process
that's the
for conducting is the front page.
Donna, she's talking about the
Yes, that's the one.
And if I might just include the dates that we just discussed, that if you voted it tonight, that it would be to us or to me by next Wednesday.
By next Wednesday.
And then we would be back here scheduled to meet with you on the 8th, so that we can put it into our calendar. We're not going on vacation, I promise. Unless Steve finds money in the budget and we can go on vacation. Looking?
That's what I'm doing right now.
Okay, good.
we're all going to the Summer Institute in Marlboro for
Yes, we are.
a weekend.
Yeah,
That's
we
our
are.
summer vacation.
But that's in July, so August is very good.
So
Did you have
just
something,
to,
Mayor Ryan?
I think Member Alexander's motion includes passing all of our emails to Pat so that she can communicate with
That
us.
would be correct, yes.
Would you repeat the motion?
Yes, can you repeat the motion?
Okay, let's see if I get this one right. I move that the Greenfield School Committee accept the MASE process of the school committee self-evaluation through the email, giving of our emails, and responding with the material that they put to us with the idea of we get a report back for our meeting in the month of August.
By next Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, we need to submit our input by next Wednesday.
With our input for next Wednesday. And I want a vacation.
At no charge.
That's not on the motion.
Okay.
Not on the
okay.
motion.
There's a slight change in wording there, but I'm assuming your second stands. Okay, great. Any further deliberation on this? Does everyone feel they're able to get their input in a week? Okay, beautiful. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Thank
So
you.
that is
So
unanimous.
we can probably collect emails from your website?
Yes, they are on the
Which would
website. I
make
can
it-
also
Yes, you can.
email
Oh,
you.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. We are.
Did you want us to
Excited
stay
do
here
this.
about the policy?
Are we?
Okay.
Member Hollins.
To the committee, I'd like to say that we have a new process for self-evaluation. We have two policies that are our Greenfield Public School policies on goals. One is ADA on broad school committee goals, and we have another one on strategic objectives, and then we voted goals December 17. I would just ask that the group that's doing our evaluation look at those so we don't have structures here and then we have a whole other structure coming in that's not connected to what we've already done.
Thanks, Member Hollins. I did make a note to myself to just email everyone those policies. And everyone's doing the self-evaluation, or anyone that wants to participate. I just want to make sure that's clear with everyone. It's not like a subcommittee. We're all doing it. But I will definitely thank you for the reminder of those policies. And I will forward them onto the group. So the MASC Policy Services is a little bit further down, but is everyone okay with moving it up?
Yes.
Seeing yeses. Okay. So yes, Pat and Liz, thank you so much. So this was previously brought up at a committee meeting and then it was tabled. There was some confusion over the policy services. If you flip to the very back of your packet, there's information there. So what we have in the packet is just a little summary that I pulled off of the MASC website that talks about policy services. And then also there's stapled in your packet the proposal that's specific to Greenfield that came, last month to Greenfield to support support policy work here in Greenfield. We've seen this before, but here it is again. Also, I think those are the two things that are there. So this was tabled, the discussion around it was because there was some confusion over the policy services that are available, there was some confusion over the naming of the services, and there was some confusion over what we really needed related to online hosting. Also, there was an interest in working on some of our policy work before taking on the support, like kind of doing some on our own before bringing in the MASC to assist us. And this came up again in subcommittee and was passed unanimously to bring it to the full committee, again, as a recommendation that we would like the policy support service of the MASC. And just quickly from my perspective, there are two different services that the MASC provides. One is called Policy 21, which is an online hosting program, and then the other is like contracted policy service. And in this particular packet, the stapled packet, there's a comprehensive proposal that includes actually the both of these services provided to Greenfield in the sum, for the sum of $14,000. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that, and then Pat and Liz, if you want to expand and give a little more detail, I'll just leave it to you so I don't say anything wrong.
Okay, we're going to go through this very quickly because you're probably going to have a lot of questions, okay? We offer a policy service, whereas we come out and take all of your policies that you have worked on, that you have, and we go through them. We also take all of your contracts that you have with all of your teachers' unions or custodians, whatever. We take your handbooks. We take anything that we think we're going to need to go through and to look at. We codify it. We break it down into, what is it, 11? I think it's 11 sections. It's A through L, so don't get nervous, not A through Z, which is a good thing. And we try to do 2 sections at a time. From the time that we pick up all of the information that's listed in your contract to the time that we sit down with you for the first meeting, it's usually anywhere from, I don't know, a month, maybe 90 days at the very most, because we're doing policy all over the state, and we're only a 9-member office, so that's what we would do. We like to meet with our school committees or a subcommittee of the school committee for policy every 6 weeks. We like to go over two sections of the policy manual during that meeting. You will have those 2 sections 6 weeks before our meeting is scheduled so that you can look at them, see what you think, make your changes, and then when we show up, then we can sit down and talk about it then. We try to distinguish between policy and procedure. And that's very important. Policy is what you say. Procedure is what the superintendent does and interprets what your policy says. That is not your domain, I guess I could say. It's nice if the superintendent brings it to you and says, this is the procedure that we think works best for us based on the policy language that you all have approved. And then you would vote on it or not vote on it or agree with it. And then she would have to rewrite it, however. But policy, procedure is hers. Policy is yours. You're the what, and she's the how. I can't say it any clearer than that, okay? That's how that is. That service alone takes anywhere from 18 to 24 months. But that depends on you, too. It can go a lot quicker. We've done policy in a year because committees are really, really dedicated to doing it and getting it finished. That service is $10,500. I think that's what it is in there. And then it's yours. You get this handy-dandy, great book that you can all carry with you if you want to. Okay, mine has been bouncing around in the back of my car for years, so I apologize for what it looks like. But it's each of the sections, and it tells you what, how, who. It also gives you all of the NEPA information that we use from the National School Boards Association. That's where we get our policies from. That's what you get for that, okay? You also get these handy-dandy flash drive things that I'm not great on, but you get them. And you would get a hard copy, just one hard copy of this. And this would probably stay in the superintendent's office. Okay, so that's that. The Policy 21 it kind of piggybacks onto the policy program that we're doing, that you do. Once you've done this, then it's an additional $3,500 to put it up online, which means, and Liz is very good at explaining this because I am not technologically perfect.
Savvy.
I am challenged, so she will explain it to you, so you will understand.
Well, gosh, everybody knows what it means to put it online, right? We take an electronic version of these policies that have live links to MGL or CMR regulations, so if you ever have a question, we set it up so that it's linked to your website, so you can go to your school committee policies, open up this fully automated electronic manual. It's also linked on our website under our policies, so that if anybody has, some school departments have complicated websites, and it's easier just to go to our website and find it. I don't know if any of you have ever found the occasion to search for a policy because you were interested. First place I go is to MASC's website and open up all the manuals at once and search a word, find what I want. If you have a question about a policy, it's searchable by word, by MGL, by any old way you want to search. It makes it super easy to keep updated. Jordana's not constantly pulling a piece of paper out and putting a piece of paper in and then making sure all of your flash drives are electronically updated. Superintendent's office typically sends us the updated policy. We load it. You don't think about it again, it's done.
And we have a brand-new, absolutely marvelous member services coordinator. She's just great, and she turns these things around. I mean, she's wonderful. I don't know what we did without her. So basically, that's what it is. That's $3,500, and so that's included in the 10, that plus the 10.5. So that's where you get the 14. It's $950 a year for maintenance, but that $950 a year doesn't kick in for 2 years once it's done. And that's just because we have to pay our webmaster to do it. But as Liz said, I think it's wonderful because instead of going through this book that I love, and we do every year, okay, that you all get, because you can't live without this book. Right, Steve? I want to include him. But if you click on MGL, whatever, at the bottom of the policy, it brings you right to the MGL that you're looking for instead of having to go looking for it, as Liz said. It also allows you to do things at the federal level, to look at things that the feds are saying that you have to have. It'll bring you, that link will bring you right to them, so that it cuts out it really saves a lot of time. I think it's the best thing that MASC, well, one of the best things that MASC does and offers. I don't know if you could have this done anywhere else for that price. That price has not changed, I'm going to tell you, in the last 10 years, because we're not in the business of making money. We're in the business of serving our membership, and we want you to be happy. So whatever we can do to make you happy and make it easier for you certainly helps us. and that there's a cost. And I said the cost, so you already know what that is. I just want you to know,
You
Your
said it
Honor.
3 times, with
I got to
3
put that
different
right out front, you know. I
She
want you to-
pitches the money. So
I
the
want
other
you to-
thing.
I want you to understand, okay?
The other thing that I want to mention, I think, that Patty didn't mention, is we take all of the policies you have and any other documents that might contain policies in the district, like contracts and such. But we also then take our policy manual, and we include in what we bring back to you all the most up-to-date requirements, state requirements and mandates that you have policies for, such as pregnant and parenting students, or service animals, or you name it. We have a policy for it because the state wants us to, and you look at all that.
So you can compare, and you can say, okay, we prefer to use ours as opposed to yours, and that's fine. We don't have a problem with that, as long as it's legal. And as I say all the time, we're going to keep you legal, kicking and screaming to the end of the process, but we're going to keep you legal, because that's very important to us, and our reputation, so, and your reputation. And we can work with you on it. It's not something you have to pay for all at once. It's something that we're happy to spread out over, 3 or 4 or 5 years. Whatever works for you, we're willing to work with you toward that goal. So, I mean, it's a service. As a former school committee member, I wish we had had this when I was on the school committee. It's phenomenal. So, now, having questions?
Any questions?
Just, how much does it cost?
I'm sorry, hon?
How much does it cost?
Oh, gosh, here we go. 10.5, and we just do it. And then you add 35, and then you put it up online, okay? So it's 14,000.
Is that $9.95?
Who?
$9.95.
We deal only in.
You know
2
what?
years.
We're not bartering here. I can't barter with you. You want to barter, call Glenn Kuchar. I'll give you his telephone number. You can have a conversation.
I think.
Mayor Martin,
Let's see, Glenn.
it's $14,000 that's spread out in payments that work for us. And that includes 2 years of hosting our online manual. Is that right?
He knows.
That's a problem.
Oh, he knows.
He knows.
So there's only 2 questions that I have, and one is that I'm hoping that, or my understanding is that whoever comes from MASC to be our representative to work with us on our policy manual will help us to, we will have some hands-on work on the policy.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
beautiful.
Absolutely.
Great.
Oh, this is not our policy, this is
It's
your
yours.
policy.
So you'll look over each and every
Right.
policy. We'll be clear about what MASC recommends.
Great.
And you will work with your superintendent in terms of, again, within the legal requirements, what best suits the Greenfield Public Schools.
And then my second question is actually related to that year 3 of the online hosting. Do you all have like a pretty seamless process to kind of move the content from your host to a new host? Or would that just entail sort of downloading each individual policy and grouping them and then just like re-putting them on our website? Obviously, we could also choose to continue to work with you and pay the $950 a year. That's not an unreasonable amount of money. But I was just kind of curious about if other districts have then taken their policies off, and if there's like a...
Okay, so this, I think what you're asking is, can we take what you already have on your website?
No, it's really the opposite. So like after 2 years, so
okay.
we'll take the 2 years, and then, maybe after 2 years, we are interested in rehosting our policy manual on our own website.
Okay.
And so this actually might be a non-issue. I mean, I can already think of the solution right now, which is literally just downloading all of the policies and then popping them onto our website. No big deal. It'll just take some time. But I'm wondering if you guys have... Pardon?
I don't think we transfer.
I mean, it's time consuming, but...
So I'd have to double check, but I don't think we transfer the hosting. We would likely give you an electronic version of what exists, and then
Cool.
you'd find your own hosting agent.
Yep. Okay, great.
But I think you also said that you would host.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Right, I think that's probably the ideal situation. Instead of creating new IT licenses and IT work in
Right.
Greenfield, we just tap into their lake.
Yeah, to continue forward with $950 a month is not unreasonable. It's totally
And I would
fine.
encourage you all, yeah.
I'm sorry, a year.
I would
Year.
encourage you all to go to our website and go to the policy section and see the districts that are there, and they're growing. They've really realized that, and the admin assistants and the superintendents have realized that it's great, because if you're working on a policy and you're not quite sure, you have access to everybody's policy that's there, plus ours. So, it's to your advantage. Our manual, with the exception of this one, has been updated. I think the last time we did it was just last year.
Last summer, yeah.
So we sit down, we go through every single section, and we update it. And we have Steve Finnegan, our attorney. If we have a question about something, he looks at it. So not a policy goes out of our office that doesn't go by Steve Finnegan.
Superintendent.
I think the committee knows that I'm a fan of our current website, and I like to say all the great things about our website. I will tell you one thing that's not great about our website, which is our policies are not searchable. So right now, if you search for a policy, but not within the PDF, within the actual policy. So if you go on our website and you search for a policy, you search the titles, the names of our policies. But if you want to look, you look like you have some special knowledge.
You can actually search them, but it's actually not something,
But
I
within the
shouldn't even
PDF,
take
you can't,
airtime
okay, so
for
you, okay. Anyway, I think this would be a big improvement over the existing policies as they're uploaded to our website.
I would
You
agree.
can, but it'd be
Member
much easier if you
Alexander.
could.
It's really easy that your building principals and other staff
Yes.
can search your policies when they have a question as well, or you can direct them to do that.
And you know what is probably the cherry on the top of the sundae? Is the public has access to your policies 24/7. So there's never a question as to what, where, how, who. They can access it.
And they're easily searchable for
Right.
the public as well.
Yeah, and it's a
Absent
really
your
robust
special
search
skills.
option.
Yeah.
Member Alexander.
One thing I would like to make it very, very clear that any changes to district policies, any updates or anything like that, we still have to go through our first and second reading process in voting and ratifying these policies. So the work is not off of us completely.
No.
So
Oh, no.
It's not off of you
Oh,
at
it's
all.
not
You're
off of you
doing-
at all,
You're
okay?
doing all the work.
You own it. You do the work. All you do
I
is
just,
send it to
like I
us.
said, I
and
just
we
want to
send
make
it
sure
out.
that we're still going to be sitting in here late at night, still voting these
Absolutely.
policies, and they're going to be coming through
No, we're not.
at a very fast pace. So
not
just,
sitting here late
there's
at
work
night
is
doing
coming.
Yeah, you will never
Member
lose
Collins.
control of your policy manual work. Absolutely not, ever.
We don't want that responsibility.
I just wanted to say, it sounds like we don't have our policies online, so I just want to say our complete policy manual is online.
It is, yeah.
And it's right under a tab that says School Committee, and I go to, I don't know about the search features, but I go looking at policy at all districts all over, and I find it very confusing when the school district doesn't have their policy manual posted on their School Committee tab. You have to go hunting all over trying to figure out where their policies were. So I really like that our policies are online, and I think the district does so I just didn't want to leave the impression that somehow we don't have our policies online. They've been online.
Yours is also very easy to find.
Right, they are.
Yeah, they're right under, and we worked on it with the new school committee, with the new website design to make sure the school committee had its own tab, and it's a drop-down, the policy manual's right there, so.
Right. And you all have done a yeoman's job with this policy, as far as I can remember, and that's a long time ago, but done a great job with it, so.
Member
nothing to be ashamed
Alexander.
At this time, Chair Nunez, I'd like to move that the Greenfield School Committee enter into the subscription service provided by the Massachusetts Association of School Committees for the policy review services and all of the services being spoken to tonight for the purposes of updating our district policies to ensure that we remain in compliance with state law and guidelines.
Second.
Okay. I just want to clarify, is it categorized as a subscription service? Because that's something different that you offer, right?
The who, huh?
The subscription service is different, isn't it?
Contract policy services.
No, it's the contract, it's the contract for the policy service, including policy 21.
Okay.
Okay, that,
But then I change it to whatever you just said.
Okay, so motion is
Motion to
getting
be
modified
made.
slightly to
Replace the word subscription with
the contract policy
Contract.
services,
Contract.
including policy 21.
correct.
Okay, and Mayor Martin, your second still stands?
Yes.
Thank you. Any further deliberation? Yes, Member Hobbs?
I can't vote for this only for one reason. We don't have a budget for FY19, and we have just committed, if we vote this, $40,000 for school committee services. We still haven't concluded if we have enough teachers at the middle school, the salaries for principals, and I just think the timing of this for me, has to come in when I know that what we need for students is available for next year before we vote this amount of money right now without having a budget that we know can afford this right now. So we have to vote our budget by September, and so for me, I just have to know that that we're not cutting reading tutors or something to put this money into place. That's all.
Yes, Superintendent?
I'm just confused by the $40,000 number. I think we talked about $10,500 over 3 years, or up to $14,000 over 3 years.
3 or 5 years, whatever you need.
So I can assure everyone right now that this is not going to cost anyone a job, not going to cut a reading tutor, and if there's a shortage, we will find funds to cover this.
Well, earlier in the meeting, there was discussion, if I could just answer that, there was discussion about a secretary for subcommittees, and the mayor said he thought this was a $25,000 position, and we voted that. And this is...
And you were in support.
Yes, but I'm saying that's my comment.
Thank you. Member Alexander?
I would like to go ahead and support my motion here, mainly for the simple reason. The very last subcommittee meeting we had in policy, we had a policy before us. 4 of us read through it 5 different times, and it became very clear that the policy was not very clear. It did not enforce anything, it did not lay anything out, and it was just basically a waste of paper. We are working very, very hard right now to try to maintain that we are in compliance, and we keep kicking this argument down the road further and further and further, and last I understand, for 4 years. It's only going to be an amount of time when it's really going to start costing us money when we're not very clear on a policy. So I think we need to move on this, and we need to move quick.
Any further comments or deliberation? Okay. All those in favor of the MASC policy services?
Aye.
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 Anyone against? Member Holland's against. Motion passes. So we will be in touch to arrange things.
I compliment you all. I think you've done an outstanding job tonight. I think the self-evaluation is wonderful. It's a place to start. I think your policy work is going to be, you're going to learn a lot. Every time I do a policy project, I learn more, so that's a good thing. And if I can learn at my age, you can learn at your age, okay? But thank you all so very much. I appreciate it, and thank you for putting your faith in MASC.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for coming. It's really, really helpful to have you here to answer questions.
I like to have something where I'm working close to home as opposed to, I'm right down the road in Hatfield. Instead of driving to North Adams or Florida, I have to drive to Florida today.
Which we've been doing lately, so yeah, it's good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, can I get that for you, ma'am?
Yes, you can. Thought you'd never ask.
So it is 8:40. Let's jump back to item number 2, everyone, which Superintendent is predominantly you, and I know that you actually did already touch on this in your superintendent report. Item number 2 is the Director of Pupil Services position update. Is there any further comments that you'd like to start us off with?
Just to let the community know, this is a very important position because it has oversight over English language learners, special education, 504 plans, students with accommodations, and it works very closely with the superintendent and the principals. We're very much looking forward to having an inclusive leader who can really advocate for all of our students. We are pleased to have some interest among the Special Education Parent Advisory Council to have a voice on this committee. We will continue to accept applicants until we find the right fit. So if there are individuals watching who know the right experienced and intelligent leader to come join the Greenfield Public Schools, please let them know to apply. And we will be beginning our interviews next week and then reporting back to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Any questions? Yes, Mayor Martin.
Yes, the departing pupil service director requested an exit interview, and there was an email went out that said the members should not speak with her. Why was that? And two, who did the exit interview?
Well, I'm pausing mainly because I'm not sure what is executive session material and what's not executive session material, but my understanding is that at this time, the former Director of Pupil Services declined to formally have an exit interview with the superintendent. That might have changed over the past couple of days. And that there was a request. I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about, so I would defer to our attorney in terms of what I'm allowed to disclose related to.
Well, let me ask the chair and the superintendent, are the members of the school committee prohibited from speaking with the former Director of Pupil Services?
That's not my understanding in terms of prohibiting individuals from talking with an individual.
We could speak with her.
That's my understanding.
Okay, fine.
Right, Gordon? I feel like we can't prohibit an individual from talking to someone.
No.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Yes, Superintendent.
I'd like to clarify in general. In general, there are provisions around employee communications with the school committee that are governed by existing contracts within district. And as long as that person is still an employee, whether on a per diem basis or a contracted basis, those are the only guidelines that would cover that. And I can also say that generally speaking, anytime somebody leaves, it's our practice to offer an exit interview. And we do that because we're a learning organization. We want to understand when people come to Greenfield, why do they come? When they leave, why do they leave? In this particular situation, our Pupil Services Director took a position in her home district, which we certainly understand. There's a sort of quality of life when you're in the same district and your commute is essentially zero. But we do like to engage in that practice to learn and see if there are ways that we can improve.
Okay, item number 3. This is a status update on implementation of the food allergy policy and procedure. Food allergy policy the life learning food allergy policy is included in your packet. There's also some additional documents that I believe came to the superintendent very recently. The first page of that has the Discovery School at Four Corners at the top. So, Superintendent, if you want to fill us in.
So sure. So we've had, there was a new policy adopted by the school committee, and it was implemented this past school year. I believe in August we began the full rollout and implementation prior to the start of the 17-18 school year. And after implementing for a full year, we did receive some feedback, and we had what's reflected in your packet is an entire class, and in this case the 4th grade class from Ms. Pinger at the Discovery School at Four Corners, and a number of students put some feedback together. And in doing so, they're learning 2 things. One is how to follow the process of civic engagement and how to express something, and they worked very closely with their teacher to put their thoughts into writing, to study the policy, and to reflect on what it meant to them in their school celebrations and their life, and also to especially reflect the medical needs of our students, which was the intent behind this policy, and then to forward them through their teacher to the superintendent, and I'm bringing them to the committee for your information. We have had a year with this policy, and I think we've made some really good gains. We also clearly, as you can tell from these students who have really been thoughtful about what they'd like to see, and then some of the concerns they have. I think we have some areas that maybe we could refine the implementation now that we have put these changes into place. And what my recommendation would be, I don't have any policy recommendation, and the policy subcommittee has not taken this up recently because it was brought forward last year. But my recommendation would be that the incoming director of pupil services do a review of how this has worked over the past year in terms of the medical needs that it was intended to address, and also if there are any recommendations for change or not. And then at that time, it come back to the policy subcommittee, especially now that we have some guidance in that area. We might find that it can stay. We might find it's appropriate for change, but I think given the amount of input that we have on this, I think it's worth taking a look at how it went.
And then just to clarify, this was on our school committee calendar. That's why it's here for July. There's a couple of pages from the calendar that I included in the packet just as a reminder to us. Member Hollins, I saw your hand.
Yes. When this policy was adopted in May of 2017, there was also a request that there be, I think as Pat said, there's a policy, then there's implementing regulations, which is how does the superintendent and staff go about implementing this policy. And what I recall is there was a request from the school committee for implementing regulations, because this is just the policy guideline. And what happened after that is there was something sent out to everyone as an implementing regulation, which was, in my opinion, a different policy. So the school committee sent it back because the implementing regulation needed to conform to this. So we never really adopted. I think if you look at the record, it says the school committee wanted to see the implementing regulations because it can on certain policies and on something that had to do with life-threatening issues, that it should look at how it's going to be implemented. So my recommendation is that we pull up those records. I'm pretty sure we never finalized implementing regulations, and if we did, number 6 could just be however the superintendent wants it to be without changing the policy. You know, it could say under what conditions, it could say anything. We just never got that finished, that part. And while I'm at it, at the time, Attorney Smith said, this is just related to life-threatening food allergy, but there are other kinds of allergies that are life-threatening, like bee stings and other things, and we should have that policy also. So I do recall at the time there was the most concern was about elementary schools that use food a lot, but we never got implementing guidelines finished.
Member Karen.
I was not part of this committee when this was adopted, and processing what Member Hollins just said. Just as a thought process, what the children have written to us about is specifically number 6 on this, which makes implementation not necessary, and basically it just says you can't have any food at school. So I'm not sure what the implementation of that would be, because it's just stated right there. There's no food at school. It's non-curriculum based. I have been at Four Corners and other schools when there is curriculum-based food, but the children are writing about the non-curriculum-based food, just as a point of clarification. Thank you.
And I think
Mayor Martin.
during this policy revision and discussion early on, a couple of years ago, the concern was that we can't control what comes into any type of non-curriculum-based celebration. So that's why it was put in there. My recent conversations with several marijuana clinics that want to, medical dispensaries and retail shops that want to move into Greenfield also include a number of edibles. And I think it's important that somebody has to monitor what's being fed to the children at an age when they can see a gummy bear and not know that it might be something else, or see a chocolate chip cookie and not realize what THC means. So there are allergies and other misfortunes that can occur when we don't take responsibility for the food. We take responsibility for Corey, Sori, the quality of the water, the air, safety. I mean, it would be, in my opinion, it would be negligent not to take responsibility for what the people eat.
To be clear, I was not disagreeing with the policy. I just was saying I don't know how you would implement that in any other way except the way it was stated right there.
It's probably not easy to implement anyway.
No, they don't like it.
Just one other quick comment. This is one of the few policies that actually was reviewed by attorney, and it may have been Gordon's office that actually reviewed this and made suggestions based on lawsuits or other things, what was important to have. Doesn't mean it shouldn't be changed, but just as a point of information.
Superintendent.
I just want to clarify, I think this was brought forward because it was on the calendar and no other reason at this time. But with this feedback, my recommendation, again, is not any changes at this time. It's simply reviewing to see how the implementation went and to have a full report to the committee. We could have done that tonight, but given the timing between directors, I didn't think it made sense. I think it makes more sense for somebody to take a look at this as a priority, given the medical urgency, before the school year.
I can try to find a record on the implementation.
Mayor Martin.
Is it possible that these events could have some food assistance from the cafeteria or from the New Madison? I forgot her name.
Sure, so we do. The new Madison is Eliza. I'm sure she'd be honored to be the new Madison, yeah. Right, and we do. We use the food services for a number of school events. We work with them directly. But I think there's still a question of, is that the right way to do it, or is that the only way to do it?
Okay. And then, again, another item that you did update us on in your superintendent report is an update on the FY18 teacher evaluations. Is there more to discuss at this time? Okay. Member Hollins.
I was thinking about this. Sometimes we say, my question is, how do we respond? I'd like to respond to the children. They've taken the time. When we do something, do we write and thank them for their input and say that we appreciated it or something?
I'd be happy to relay a message. I've been in contact, in particular, Ms. Pinger. I would let her know it is the summer, but I let her know it was coming forward this evening so that she could be aware of that. If there's a message back, or even just to say that this is being looked at, I think that's one of the reasons I'm sort of pushing the committee a bit on this. I would hate to send the message to these students that there's going to be no effort to even review it based on the considerable input. Out of all of the years that I've been as the superintendent, I believe this is the first time that elementary children have written numerous letters as a group and individually on a policy matter. You look surprised by that, but it's my experience that this is the first time that an entire class of students has written a letter on a policy matter. And so I would hope that the committee can support those students' engagement in the civic process, which is something we talk about quite a lot, by at least engaging in a dialogue, whether or not there's any change.
That's what I would hope we said to them. We really appreciate them bringing it to our attention and their research into the political process. Cheer them on or something.
Okay, is that a motion for a full committee response to students expressing appreciation?
Yes, that we respond and thank them for their input, let them know we're thoughtful about their input.
Okay.
Can I let them know what the committee might do?
I like my suggestion, in that if you're going to have birthday parties in school, particularly in K through 4, that we have the food service department prepare cakes and cookies.
Mayor's going to go to the parties. Mayor's going to come to the parties. The mayor's. Mayor's like,
That's right, the mayor's rolling in for the party. That's the note.
You could tell them that the Department of Education published, I think it's almost 200 pages long, guidance on just this topic. It's a really complicated topic.
Well, maybe if we stick with vanilla frosting and vanilla cake. I can
I
go
just
with
like
that.
to thank
Can't
them
have gluten in
for
there.
Boring.
All right. So, how about the superintendent, if you could
thank you.
relay the message that we are reviewing and that we do intend to have our new director review the policy and the procedure around the implementation, and that we appreciate them helping to put it on our radar and all of the things that we have kind of communicated this evening. Sounds like everyone's in support of that, and we do genuinely appreciate the input from our students.
Thank you.
So, teacher evaluations, you just said that you didn't have any further input, and is there any other questions or anything? This is another item that was on the calendar related to teacher evaluation.
I will add to this that we have a number of our schools using the TeachPoint software, which is an online software that facilitates teacher evaluation and sharing electronically of documents and feedback, and that has been very successful in the schools that are using it, and we're continuing to roll it out to improve the efficiency of this process to more schools for next year.
Thank you. Okay, so then we did cover number 5 and number 6, so we are down to new business. Is there any new business to discuss this evening? I don't have any. Mayor Martin?
I don't know if it's new business, but we didn't have the business manager scheduled to speak, and he did present some information. I'd like to ask him some questions on that.
Sure.
Just quickly on your introduction sheet, Steve, you had the statement doesn't reflect the June 30th 18 choice and circuit breaker funds.
That is correct.
Quarterly payments. So when those are received in July, will they go to FY18 or FY19?
They will go to the revolving accounts, which are rollover accounts from year to year, but they will be part of the FY18 totals.
Okay, so then that will be included with the end of the year reports. That revenue will be there.
Exactly.
So is that going to change the end of the year report of ending balance of $10,125?
That probably will, especially with circuit breaker, because we can only roll over what we received the previous year, which is about $960,000. So if we have not expended enough of that, we'll have to go ahead and offset some of that with the actual budget.
So the offset will be in FY18?
FY18, yes.
Then will that show a surplus in different revolving accounts?
All the revolving accounts have positive balances. With the surplus, the circuit breaker, we can only roll over X amount, but all the rest, there's no limit to how much can be rolled over, and there will be more rolled over in the FY18.
So in some past years, we've had DOR to identify unrolled over funds and convert it to free cash. So you don't expect that to happen?
I don't expect that to happen, no.
Okay, good, thanks. The prepayments for special education, how much and how many months?
That was, actually, there's a spreadsheet on that, and that consisted of, I believe it was...
Okay, page 20.
Yeah, page 20 there. Yeah, let me get to the right spot here.
249, 350, 688.
249,000, and what that is, it's according to your FY19 budget, you had to prepay about 250,000 or so in order to prepayment from the FY18 budget for the FY19 expenses, because the FY19 expenses were cut. So that's the prepayment.
So the FY19 expenses were cut. So the FY19 budget was increased by $800,000 at a minimum. So where was the cut?
I believe the current budget is $800,000 in FY19, when the actual expenses hit about $1 million. So in order to make up that $1 million, $250,000 in prepayments.
I see. So the increase was $1 million.
Exactly.
And then the reduction to a funded $800,000 increase resulted in $249,000.
Exactly.
$250,000.
Yeah.
And the 250 came from?
Unexpended balances in the FY18 budget.
Good, thank you.
Sure.
Just one more question. You said the rental revenues will come later on. We're getting close to the end of the year on 18, so do we have a FY18 school rental?
Actually, I have it with me. I can hand it out after the meeting.
Perfect.
Okay.
The last question is, thank you very much.
Oh, no problem.
Did you want to comment something? Member Hollins?
I have two questions.
Sure.
So, related to the prepayment and our requirement that school committee vote transfers, is that something the school committee should vote? Because I think in prior years, we have voted that an amount of money be used for prepayment of tuition. It seems to me, in reading from year to year the record, the school committee knows how much that is and they vote to approve it, because it's a special statute that allows the school committee to move money from one year into the next. Doesn't the school, I mean, we have it, shouldn't it be a vote on the record to approve that?
Well, when you look at the statute, it just says that you have to approve. There's no specific language as to vote. And that was approved through the warrant process.
Well, it wasn't
The
really.
superintendent has a comment on that.
So this prepayment is probably the most discussed and planned for prepayment of any that I'm aware of. This was in the superintendent's budget starting back in December. It was in the voted superintendent's budget. It was in the voted school committee budget. We talked all along about prepaying $250,000. Just we're $8,000 shy based on the actuals of students going out of district. It's as much to the penny as it can be, $250,000 of prepay. And we talked at length about the extraordinary step of identifying back in January, February, the need to make a $250,000 prepayment in order to balance FY19, and the fact that we were planning to do that using FY18 funds as far back as January. So it was discussed more than any other prepayment. It was voted by the school committee explicitly in the budget. I'm not sure why that's a surprise. I'm not sure what the quizzical brow is, but it was voted by the school committee in the line with a prepayment of $250,000. So I would consider this one maybe double voted.
I have another question.
Okay.
It's actually a comment. At the subcommittee meeting, toward the end, we were looking at the Munis report, which is included all the time. I think it's about a year ago that the Munis report, I don't remember, but if you get to a certain page 7 on the Munis report, you start getting a huge listing of line items that aren't yet set up according, I believe, to the cost centers. And our discussion was, until the Munis report is set up so that all the lines are in cost centers, it isn't really useful. Everyone wasn't there, but we still had a quorum, and we felt that it's no point in continuing to give this out because we can't really use it. If you look at page 6 and 7.
Is there a question?
No, it's a comment to Steve and to thank him for joining us.
No, I get what you're saying, and actually, I found on my computer today access to Crystal Reports, which is a fabulous program, and what it can do, it can slice and dice this however you want fairly easily. So, you know, with the working with the committee, I have no problem. I don't want to have to recreate the wheel every single time, because that's not going to help anybody, but I have no problem working on a different format through the software that we already have. That's something that works for you a little better. That would be fine.
Well, we have an established budget format with cost centers, and it's very clear in this report. It's just that the Munis report is different.
I would disagree with that. The cost centers are there. It's just not it's not readily available and not set out properly in the format that's here. within each line, there's actually about a 25-character account code that goes with it, and I've been working very hard in the past few days trying to decipher that account code into specific cost centers. So you want to specifically go into, okay, what are your salaries? What are your expenses? What are your DESI cost codes? What are your special ed costs? Those types of things. And within that large character base, it's all broken out, and it's just a matter of getting to that meat that's in the 20-character string. Does that help?
I appreciate it. It's just when you look at page 6 and 7. I wasn't suggesting a whole new budget format, just.
Oh, I think I'm suggesting a new budget format.
Yeah, Superintendent.
Given that we have a new business manager and that he's getting familiar with our formats and that there are currently two formats in which we report this, the financial information monthly to the school committee, perhaps at the next Budget and Finance Subcommittee, since there are 2 per month now, this is a topic that is looked at. It was on the agenda for the last meeting, but due to the brevity of the meeting because of the aforementioned meeting, this could simply be revisited, and then whatever format is agreed to by the subcommittee and the committee, I just ask that it stay consistent so we can plan our work and that Steve can do his other tasks as well.
Thank you. Are there any new agenda requests from committee members at this time? Oh,
Do we have some time, a week or so, to provide agenda items?
of course, you can put agenda items whenever you'd like. I have it just formally here to help and kind of streamline the process, and we, of course, have our calendar that also helps to guide us.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next item is executive session, and we have 2 reasons for executive session. At this time, I would entertain a motion to enter into executive session for MGL C30A 21-2 and 3. That would be to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel and to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body and the chair so declares. Somebody move it.
Second.
So
Moved by Alexander.
I'll move it, she'll second.
And
I'll move it,
seconded
I'll
by
second.
Ekstrom. Thank you.
We'll trade next time.
Sure.
We
All right.
we may come back for a public vote, and can we have a roll call, please, to enter executive session?
Committeemember Ekstrom.
Here.
Committeemember Hollins. Oh, wait a minute.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes, sure.
Committeemember Hollins.
Yes.
Committeemember Karen.
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Committeemember Nunez.
Yes.
And I vote yes. We are in
Thank you. We are
executive
now
session.
in executive session.
What's the motion?
We're back from executive session. Mayor Martin has a
Adjourn
motion.
At this time.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Me.
Susan?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Present.
Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned. Thank you.
All of our productions at GCTV are sponsored in part by Bay State Health, providing the care you and your family need when you need it close to home. Visit them online at baystatehealth.org. Greenfield Savings Bank. Visit them at 400 Main Street in Greenfield. Call them at 774-3191 or go online to greenfieldsavings.com. Greenfield Community College, providing access and excellence in higher education in the Pioneer Valley. Visit them at gcc.mass.edu. The Hammond Family. The Hammond family are longtime supporters of Greenfield Community Television. New Fortune Chinese Restaurant on the Mohawk Trail in Greenfield. Visit them online at newfortunema.com. Call them at 772-0838 and check them out on Facebook. Real Cleaning Services, cleaning Hampshire and Franklin County since 1972. We don't cut corners, we clean them. Check them out online at realclean.com. Call them at 413-422-1143. People's United Bank, located at 45 Federal Street in Greenfield. You can call them at 774-3713 or visit them online at peoples.com. The Solar Store of Greenfield, replacing fossil fuels and nuclear power one home at a time. Visit them at 23 Fisk Ave. Call them at 413-772-3122 or visit them online at solarstoreofgreenfield.com. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting all of GCTV's productions.